Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stephen King Cast, one man's musings on the works of Stephen King. Each week, I will review a different entry in the bibliography of Stephen King in the chronological order of publication. And this week, I will be reviewing a bad adaptation of A Good Marriage. I'm just going to cut to the chase. It's not good. This is not a good movie. And the movie that we're talking about is A Good Marriage, which is an adaptation of it's I guess the crown jewel of the in the collection Full Dark No Stars, which I reviewed last episode, and I know that there was a movie out there for A Good Marriage, which I remember when the first poster came out for the A Good Marriage. I had just started the Stephen King cast, and it was a great picture, and I got excited for it, and it's the his and hers towels in the bathroom, and one of them has the bloody handprint on it. And I said, oh my God, that's great. That's a great visual to really represent what this story is, of the everyday and the mundane of just Stephen King examining marriage, and the bloody handprint just says it all. And I looked forward to it. Then I didn't hear anything about it other than it came out, and then I knew that was not a good sign, and I held off on watching it until very, very recently, and here we are. I'll get into my review in a little bit, but I think that in last week's review of Full Dark No Stars, I hope that I made it clear that I think that A Good Marriage is an incredible novella. I think that it is King firing on all cylinders. It's him speaking about just the realities of life and marriage, and of course he puts a spin on it, but it's all filtered through truth, which is just great. And even though he writes the screenplay for the adaptation fails in every which way where the story succeeded. But like I said, I'll get to it in much more detail. In the meantime, I'm going to read a listener email. And everyone, I think that you know that I love getting emails, so if you haven't written in yet, feel free to do so at stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. And let's see, we have Shane, who writes, "Hi, Stephen King Cast. As I am behind by a year on your podcast, I may be way late with this observation. I have not actually seen or read Apt Pupil. My observation comes from my own cursory knowledge and having listened to your musings on both the movie and the novella back-to-back. I believe that the key to unlocking the movie is actually found in something that you said in the review of the novella. The story is exploring the creation of a serial killer. It's a popular notion that repressed homosexuality can result in horrendous things. Most famously, experts point to Jeffrey Dahmer. Whether right or not, experts theorize that Dahmer's downhill slope towards the monster he became started with repressed homosexuality. This started to come out in the killings of animals for pleasure and ended with the horrible and unspeakable things that he did to human victims. When we take into consideration Bryan Singer's open bisexuality, this film's emphasis on the sexuality of the characters, and the threat of a still-alive Todd Bowden, it paints a picture. I think the director is using this story as a warning and condemnation of these aspects of American culture. Personally, I find theories which absolve a monster like Dahmer, or even part of the personal responsibility for his crimes, troubling, but I do think this is the lesson that we are supposed to learn." Thanks again for the good work, Shane. Shane, I think that you're onto something. You're close to something, and maybe I'm just misreading here the email itself, but I take it more very much as a message. I think that you're right that this was something that was discussed with Dahmer, but I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a FBI profiler or anything, but I think that there is a clear distinction between repressed homosexuality and just being a sociopath, someone that just does not have feelings of empathy towards someone else. But I think that what Bryan Singer is going for, and what you're alluding here to in your email, is that that what he's saying here, it is a warning, it is a condemnation, it's a message, it's an allegory for what really happens, that when you are forced to repress who you are, it's never going to turn out good. And he explores through metaphor what could happen. I don't think that anyone's saying that if you repress your sexuality or any aspect of who you are, you're going to wind up turning into a serial killer, but that's the nature of fiction. But I think that you're definitely onto something there. Thank you for writing. And then we have Brett, who writes, "Hello again. I wrote you an email a while back, and I'm still not sure if you read it on your show or not because I have not yet gotten up on to date on our EPs. I am currently about to listen to Rose Matter, but considering I just discovered your podcast a little while ago and have been listening in order starting with Carrie, consider it a compliment that I'm already up to Rose Matter. As I probably said in my previous email, I just recently finished a chronological King reread of my own. Now I can look people in the eyes and said, yes, I have read everything King has ever written from Carrie in 1974 through Finders Keepers in 2015. Now I just need to wait for Bazaar of Bad Dreams. Anyway, I was a bit dismissive of the whole Dark Tower saga when I did my chronological thing, but then something happened. Since finishing my King Fest, I found myself reflecting on the madness and lunacy and general WTF-ness of the whole saga and smiling whenever I think of it. Then, all your thoughts and insights on the Dark Tower inspired me to sit down and read the whole thing start to finish with no breaks in between. See, when I did King Fest, I would read a DT novel when it came up, sort of like you're doing. I had The Gunslinger in 1982 and The Drawing of the Three in 1987 and The Wastelands in 1991. So, aside from the last 3 books that all came out in a row, there was always these big gaps in between the books. On one hand, this was good because I was able to pay attention on how King's non-DT books connected to that universe, but on the other hand, I think it sort of killed the momentum because every time I hit a DT book, it'd be like, what happened in the last one? Oh, yeah, right. However, so far the experience is very different and much better. To be an uber completist, I began with the 1982 Gunslinger and followed immediately with the 2003 Gunslinger. Doing it so close together made it easier for me to spot the changes and differences, and I gotta tell you, I'd recommend the 1982 one over the 2003 one to a new reader, no matter how much George Lucas tampering King did to try and make part 1 fit in with parts 2 through 7 better. And then I immediately jumped into the Drawing of the Three. I finished that last night and now I'm working on the Wastelands. Reading them this way, for me, plays much better, and I'm suddenly enjoying the saga as a whole a lot more, because I feel it's building momentum and it's not being interrupted by 5 or 6 years of other King books, you know? I'll report back after I finish the saga to see how it feels reading it as one giant 8-piece book series with no gaps in between. Here's one random thing I wanted to note, and I'm noting this with love, even though it sounds like a criticism. Have you noticed that King is sort of obsessed with bodily functions like pee and poop? On one hand, I find it kind of endearing because it keeps his stories grounded in reality. That he'll describe a character pooping or farting or whatever, but sometimes I notice that when he revises his stuff, he feels compelled to add more bodily functions into it. In fact, I noted in at least 2 times with the revised Gunslinger, and in both instances, it made me prefer the 1982 one. In the 1982 one, when Roland first meets Jake and asks him how long he's been at the way station, Jake is sort of like, I'm not sure. In the revised one, he says, 3 poops ago. That's how I measure things now. And I'm thinking, thanks, Stephen King. Now I'm imagining Jake pooping 3 times. How lovely. Also, when Roland hypnotizes Jake and finds out him getting pushed in front of the cabin dying, he asks him if he wants to remember this or forget. In the 1982 one, Jake says, forget it, I bled. And I like the simplicity of that. But in the 2003 one, he says, when the blood filled my mouth, I could taste my own shit. Ick. I'm like, did you just have to add that part in there, Stephen King? The same is true of the 1978 Stand versus the 1990 version. There are parts where he just adds references to fart and poop that I'm thinking were not at all that necessary. Am I the only one who has ever noticed this? It extends to his movies too, because in the only movie he ever directed, Maximum Overdrive, 2 characters are in a men's room having a conversation, and for absolutely no reason, there's a dude in the stall pooping, and we get to hear several of his loud farts. I read this interview where King is like, I thought the farting was hilarious. Really? So, okay, enough about farts and poops, because this email is getting way too long. Sorry guys. I'm glad that Brett wrote in, because I've never noticed this before, and it is pretty ridiculous. It is pretty ridiculous. I just wanted to report to you that you have inspired me to read the Dark Tower saga, and you have also inspired me to start my own blog. Here comes a shameless plug that you can feel free not to read on the show if you find it too shameless, but I'm going to read it anyway. I've started my own blog about my second favorite TV series, Knots Landing. I'm going to put up 1 post per week and slowly but surely go through all 344 episodes of this dynamic show from the 1980s. I'm only up on episode 3 as of this writing, but my blog can be located at knotsblogging.com, and I would appreciate any support I can get. Thank you, Sai. Oh yeah, the very last thing I'll say to you before I leave you. I have an idea for what to do after you finished all the King books. I don't want the podcast to die, although I know that one day it will probably just have to. So why not do these two things? First, go back and make sure that you fill in your Bachman gaps. Also, why not cover all the movies? Include the horrible ones in there because it would be fun to hear you riff on them. Let's get some dialogue going on The Rage Carry 2 or Pet Sematary 2 or Children of the Corn 99 or whatever. Why not cover his little 7 episodes of the Golden Years? I've always had a soft spot for that one. That's all I've got, sir. Keep up the good work, as I'm now a devoted constant listener, and I appreciate what you do. Long days and pleasant nights, Brett. Brett, thank you for writing in. That was great. I love that email. So, just so you know, guys, in the chronology of this, when this is coming out, or not when this is coming out, but as I'm recording this right now, I just finished my reread of Dr. Sleep right now. I'm halfway through, today, I finished it today. I'm halfway through my reread of Joyland, which really means that in terms of the chronological order of publication, I only have Mr. Mercedes and Finders Keepers left to reread. I reread Bizarre of Bad Dreams a couple days ago. So I'm almost done with the chronological reread. I do have some gaps to fill in, like Brett writes. I never read Blaze, and I did not read the Colorado Kid. So I know that those are two I'm definitely going to have to get to. I know that I have to do the Creep shows. And then I was thinking of doing some top 10 lists. I don't know exactly how long those would be, but I think that some top 10 lists would be fun. And maybe just go back and review some of the stories that I never reviewed in Night Shift and Skeleton Crew, in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, Everything's Eventual, and Just After Sunset. I review all of the short stories in Bizarre of Bad Dreams, so that would just leave the ones that I never got around to. So these are all possibilities. So, I mean, even though I'm coming to the end of the chronological order of publication, I mean, there's still some content that I'll be able to put out there. So let's not worry right now about the end of the Stephen King cast. I mean, it will change because, I mean, there's only so many books that I have to review. But I mean, there's still some stuff to be said. Okay, so with all of that said, I'm going to read the Wikipedia the Wikipedia summary for A Good Marriage. After 25 years of a good marriage, Darcy discovers her husband's sinister secret and realizes she's going to have to take drastic measures to protect her own grown children from the exposure of that secret. End of the Wikipedia summary. Okay, so let's do the analysis. So I would say it's a pretty good opening. You know, shot in stark black and white. You know, with Bob being only a pair of menacing eyes following a defenseless woman while, what's his name? The Bolt Ramsey narrating The Hound of Heaven by Francis Thompson. So I would say good opening. Good opening. The story then picks up at a party with the old folks, specifically Joan Allen as Darcy, clearly happy with her life, her husband, her children. It's a celebratory scene that allows for some bathroom chatter with a recent divorcee who fills us in on the Beatty murders. Also shown to us through the newspaper read by the narrator of the Hound of Heaven section that opened up the movie. During the anniversary party thrown by their daughter, played by Kristen Connolly from the incredibly fun Cabin in the Woods, who gives a speech that includes the theme for this movie of her parents' good marriage, which is then showed to us by the happy and healthy love life of the two parents. Meanwhile, outside, the mysterious stranger smokes cigarette after cigarette, watching their house. In bed, the happy couple discusses Bob's love of coin collecting. Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah. All right, it's New Year's Eve. I am off to do my New Year's Eve thing. So happy New Year's, everybody. Even though when this comes out, that day will already passed. But here's the moment. Happy New Year's, guys. And just like that, it is a new year, same podcast, new year. And let's see, where did I leave off? So in bed, the happy couple discuss Bob's love of coin collecting. And the next day, everyone departs, leaving Darcy by herself, her children leaving now that the party is over, and Bob heading out for work. Alone in her house, she watches the news that focus in on the Beatty murders. We get how squeamish Darcy is when the TV is stuck on a horror movie and she runs out to the shed to get the batteries to change the remote, and there she finds Bob's secret box. Before she does, she hears a knocking on the door of her house, and when looking through the window of her shed, she sees the mysterious stranger who's been stalking them. He leaves, never noticing that she's there, and then she finds the porn and then the truth about Bob. A box containing the licenses of the Beatty murder victims. The truth sinks in, and she immediately is forced to have a conversation with him when he calls. Now, Joan Allen has proven herself to be a noteworthy actress. But something's up with this performance. Is the director just capturing a hamminess in her that she isn't intending to put out there? Or maybe she is hamming it up. I'm not sure, but while I'm on the subject, let's talk about the director, Peter Askin. Actually, can we talk about Dutch tilts? This is the worst angle that you can use in storytelling. It's an immediate technique that you can use to show imbalance, right? So if someone's going through something or is rocked to the core, then a Dutch tilt can create that sensation on the screen. Now, however, I find them to be too on the nose. The fact that they were played up as an intentional camp in the 1968 Bill Dozier Batman television show, it proves that they're effectively campy. So when the director here decides to Dutch tilt the shit out of this movie, I immediately tune out. And if I was still thinking of sticking with it, when he doesn't Dutch tilt, he opts for the zoom in. Anyway, Joan Allen then visualizes the possibilities that come with her now knowing that her husband is the Beatty killer. The news reporting her involvement. The police rush to her door, Bob killing her as well. Again, just as with the Dutch tilts and the zoom-ins, the decisions here are the obvious ones, and they come across as too on the nose. Meanwhile, Bob is stalking his newest victim. Bob then returns home and has the conversation with Joan Allen. When this moment hits in the novella, it is a major blow. It completely cuts our legs out from underneath us. It's so matter-of-fact, and it's completely unexpected. Here, I believe that Paul Askin wants the dramatic and the undramatic. First, Bob is sitting like a creep in the corner, so he's going for the horror element, and then Bob starts monologuing about his life as Beatty, intermingling the conversation with the fact that she needs an oil change and how many chocolates she's been eating. The attempt is there to keep it matter-of-fact, just another misunderstanding in the long marriage, but it 100% fails to land. First, Anthony LaPaglia seems bored out of his mind in the role, which doesn't help. There should be so much complexity in this scene. Here's a man who both doesn't understand the significance of his actions, yet at the same time, for the first time, is completely unburdened when he opens up to his wife. He is at the same time a monster and a pathetic little boy. He is threatening because of his previous actions, but is the most vulnerable person in that room. He is begging for his wife's love and acceptance, both earnestly and because he's selfish. It's a loaded scene, or it should be a loaded scene, and in the hands of another creative force behind the camera, this could be the submission scene for an Academy Award. What we get is a Lifetime movie performance that just doesn't end. So when Joan Allen starts crying and begging for him to stop it, I'm pretty sure it's the only authentic performance in this movie, and has more to do with the actress suddenly realizing the type of movie she's in than the character having a crisis because her husband is a murderer. They then have an agreement. He promises her that he'll never do it again and that he won't send the latest victim's ID to the police. Life continues. Darcy sees him checking out a neighbor and reminds him of their agreement. Then, during their daughter's wedding, Bob dances with the bride. Through Darcy's eyes, she sees the murderer dancing with a child. She's clearly having trouble reconciling the truth of her husband, but the moment fails to land. Darcy has yet another dream, this time seeing Petra as one of Bob's victims, and this is finally what prompts her to take action. She gets Bob drunk after he finally finds his coin. So then here's the moment. The moment when she does what she has to do. It should be like everything else in this movie, it should be impactful. I mean, literally. I mean, when he falls, it should hurt. It should be wrought with emotion. And it's none of these things. First, it doesn't feel like a big fall, and he lands on the table, which just doesn't look like it hurts all that much. And then comes the murder. Peter Askin has Joan Allen become vengeful and hateful in this moment, which is certainly a choice, but seriously, the moment in the novella is loaded with emotion. Despite the fact that he's a killer, this is still the man that she's been married to. She's still murdering the man that she loves. She's simply doing what she has to do, and it hurts. It isn't an easy decision. However, for cinematic Darcy, and that's a term that I don't like using to describe this movie, her killing Bob is as easy for her as it is for Bob to kill his victims. Also in the novella, she pushes him down the stairs so it'll look like he got drunk and fell down the stairs. Here, he's pushed over the banister. Which, doesn't it... I'm not a cop, but I would immediately assume that he was just been pushed off the banister. Anyway, at the funeral, the absurdity of this movie continues with her meathead son whispering in her ear, "Hang in there, Mom. Hang in there? Who honestly says hang in there at a funeral? Especially to the widow of a deceased." And if this was a character tick, if the character was supposed to be a bonehead, then yes, let the character tell the mother, "Hang in there." But this is a character without any traits. He, like any of the other characters, simply says things. He's a voice just for the script, for words to come out of his mouth. They don't reveal any character. They don't service the plot. They are words to be spoken, and that's all. In the post-Bob world, she's visited by Detective Ramsey, who fills her in. And then, inexplicably, Ramsey has a heart attack or something once he leaves. And then Darcy heads to the hospital to murder him? So this is where the movie's going. And now she has a taste for blood. Now she's comfortable killing people. This is terrible, guys. And she doesn't go through with it, and I just don't care anymore. I know that I'm like 5 minutes away from the end of the movie, but I'm done. I'm tapping out. I'm done. This movie sucks. Easter eggs. Shawshank. Shawshank is mentioned, which really only hurts the movie. It's a nice reference, but when you mention Shawshank prison in a movie, you're immediately invoking a good Stephen King adaptation. It can't help but make you compare it to Shawshank. And, I'm not even going to bother doing head-to-heads because it's a clean sweep. The movie, it sucks, and the novella in every regard is better handled. But I want to talk a little bit about Joan Allen, because I don't know what's going on with her in this movie. Because I just watched Room. I don't know if you guys have seen it, starring Brie Larson. It's just an incredible... It's full of feelings, guys. Just watch it with a box of tissues nearby, because you're gonna well up. But it's an incredible movie. And Joan Allen doesn't have a lot to do with the movie. She plays Brie Larson's mother. But the scenes that she's in, you can tell the complexity that she has in these scenes. So without a lot to do, she's able to do a lot. And I'm just wondering where that actress was during this movie. And again, I don't know if it's either the hammy writing or what Peter Askin is asking her to do. I don't know what it is, but it's almost like a different actress. And just the characterization, she's just like cartoonish when she sees the horror movies on the TV, and she's like, and she's just... to me, it just never feels real. She just does not feel like a real person, which... The whole point of this is to make this feel real, like a real marriage. And hidden within that marriage is this awful, awful secret. But she just seems like a cartoon character, and he just seems to be sleepwalking through it. Looking at this, at the material here that was given, I just feel like this could have been an A+ movie, like a Silence of the Lambs caliber thriller. A suspenseful, edge-of-your-seat nail-biter that also grabs the attention of the critical community. There's so much that you can mine from this subject matter, the secrets within a marriage. Rather than exploring the horror through the everyday, recognizable life moments of a marriage, Peter Askin just hams up the horror moments and isn't able to elicit authentic emotion from his actors. From start to finish, it's campy, it's on the nose, and worst of all, it's boring. So, unfortunately, like I said at the top, this is a bad adaptation of A Good Marriage. If you have any thoughts on A Good Marriage or anything related to Stephen King, please write into StephenKingcast@yahoo.com. If you have any time on your hands, leaving a review on the podcast platform that you use to stream and listen to the Stephen King Cast would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me on TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, and on Facebook. And may you have long days and pleasant nights, and I'll see you here next time where MOON spells Stephen King Cast.